The 2026 NBA trade deadline is officially creeping up. We're roughly a month out, so now feels like the right time to lock in some predictions. There are a lot of notable names floating around, so let's go through them one by one and figure out who's actually getting moved and who's staying put. Let's start at the top with Trae Young. Even though that one's already settled. He's been traded, so we can move on quickly there. The next major name everyone's watching is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis has been very clear. He's not asking out, and as long as that remains the case, Milwaukee isn't trading him. Simple as that. So my prediction here is pretty straightforward. Giannis stays exactly where he is. After that, the conversation naturally shifts to Anthony Davis. Right after the Trae Young deal, a wave of reports dropped suggesting the Hawks might be pivoting toward AD. Even Shams hinted at that idea when talking about the Hawks creating flexibility for a potential Anthony Davis move. At the same time, there's been consistent reporting that AD's top priority isn't just where he plays, it's securing a long-term extension. That detail really drives this entire situation. Whether Dallas keeps him or another team trades for him, Anthony Davis is expected to push hard for an extension, potentially close to max money, despite the injury concerns. His camp still views him as that caliber of player. That's why Dallas might actually make the most sense, unless they're unwilling to commit long-term. There have also been whispers that AD might prefer a different destination if Dallas won't extend him, with Atlanta and even Golden State popping up as theoretical options. But if we're being realistic, his recent hand injury makes it hard to imagine Dallas getting real value back right now. If a deal were to happen, Atlanta would be the most logical partner, likely involving a package centered around Porzingis, Zachary, and Luke Kennard. If Dallas doesn't see that as enough, which they probably won't, then this whole thing stalls out. So when it comes down to it, my official call is that Anthony Davis stays in Dallas through the deadline. Now, Michael Porter Jr. is where things start to get really interesting. Coming into the season, this didn't even feel like a real discussion. His value was questionable, and it seemed unlikely he'd generate much interest. But that's changed. Right now, MPJ is legitimately viewed as a positive trade asset. Brooklyn in particular is holding firm. The Nets are reportedly asking for at least one fully unprotected first-round pick if they're moving Porter, potentially as part of a larger deal that could also include Nick Claxton. Whether a team meets that price is the big question. From Brooklyn's perspective, this is a great situation. They don't need to move him. He's playing well, has another year on his deal, and could easily be traded later. But if multiple teams step up, I do think a deal gets done. Teams like Milwaukee or Golden State make a lot of sense here. Franchises that are desperate enough to justify sending out a far future unprotected pick. Milwaukee pairing him with Giannis or Golden State attaching Kuminga to make salaries work are both realistic paths. If you force me to predict, I'd say Michael Porter Jr. does get traded, most likely to either the Bucks or the Warriors, and Brooklyn gets the first-round pick they're targeting. Nick Claxton is a little different. I don't think teams are lining up to send out unprotected firsts for him specifically. That said, Brooklyn's current record suggests they're motivated to keep sliding toward the lottery, so if a deal helps that goal, it's not off the table. Speaking of Jonathan Kuminga, this one feels inevitable. No matter what rumors Golden State puts out, he's not playing, and they're clearly just waiting for January 15th so he becomes trade eligible. I'm fully confident Kuminga will not be a Warrior after the deadline. Brooklyn is an obvious team to watch, depending on how they feel about adding him to their rebuild. Sacramento has also been linked to Kuminga dating back to the offseason, with frameworks involving Malik Monk and a protected first. That structure still works. Golden State may not love the return, but at some point they have to accept reality. This is one of those situations where you can't think about what Kuminga used to be worth. You have to focus on his current value and move forward. Atlanta already went through this with Trae Young. Golden State needs to do the same. My best guess is that Kuminga ends up in Sacramento. Another name hovering on the edge of the deadline conversation is Coby White. He's been mentioned repeatedly as a potential scoring or playmaking boost for a contender. He's also an upcoming free agent, which makes him more of a rental. Chicago seems to function better with other guards in the rotation, and while Coby White is a solid player, he's probably not someone you want to anchor your backcourt long term. Because of that, I do think he gets moved. Detroit makes a lot of sense. They tried something similar last season by bringing in Dennis Schroeder to take pressure off of Cade Cunningham. Right now, they don't really have that secondary creator.
If Detroit truly believes they can make a deep playoff push, it would be strange for them to stand pat at the deadline. Cleveland is another logical landing spot. They've struggled all season. The Lonzo experiment hasn't worked, and they're missing the spark Ty Jerome gave them last year. Coby White could fill that role while also providing some future financial flexibility with his expiring contract. So yes, I'm predicting Coby White gets moved. One prediction I feel extremely confident about: Zach LaVine ends up in Milwaukee. The rumors won't stop, and Milwaukee simply doesn't have many other realistic paths to upgrading the roster. We already know Giannis isn't going anywhere, and Milwaukee isn't going to roll into the playoffs with this exact group. While it's fun to imagine someone like Anthony Davis next to Giannis, or even a Jeremy Grant scenario, LaVine is clearly the most practical option. Milwaukee will send out contracts, maybe a pick, and hope that adding LaVine gives them enough offensive juice. I'd put this one close to a lock. From there, we get into players I don't expect to be traded. Ja Morant and LaMelo Ball fall into that category. Ja's value isn't especially high right now. LaMelo's injury concerns persist, and neither team feels desperate enough to blow things up the way Atlanta did. Their contract situations are also very different from Trey's, so I don't see movement there. Jeremy Grant is another stay-put candidate. Milwaukee would have been the obvious destination, but if they go the LaVine route instead, Grant's market dries up. Golden State could theoretically get desperate, but even then, I think Portland holds. For the Clippers, Ivica Zubac is interesting. My expectation is that he stays, but if a team were willing to offer 2 lightly protected firsts, the Clippers would have to think about it. He's valuable, but if the team isn't truly contending and those picks accelerate a retool, it becomes tempting. Atlanta has been mentioned, but for now, I'll say Zubac stays, with an asterisk. James Harden also feels like a stay. There just isn't a logical trade partner. Any deal would require a younger team willing to pivot dramatically, and that doesn't line up with Harden's timeline. In New Orleans, Herb Jones and Trey Murphy continue to surface in rumors, but the asking price is enormous. Multiple firsts for Herb or a Mikal Bridges-level haul for Murphy just doesn't feel realistic. The Pelicans know what they have and aren't likely to compromise unless something wild happens, which, to be fair, is never impossible with that front office. Still, my prediction is both remain Pelicans. And that pretty much covers it. Unless we get some completely out-of-nowhere superstar trade that nobody sees coming. That happens every year. Last season, Luka wasn't even on the radar until suddenly he was gone. This deadline, though, feels unusually transparent. We know where Giannis stands, we have a decent read on AD, Trae Young's situation was obvious before it happened. Kuminga's outcome feels inevitable. Some fans might be disappointed if Trae ends up being the biggest name moved, but players like Coby White, Zach LaVine still make this deadline fascinating. It may not be as chaotic as last year, but it's far from boring. Those are my predictions with a couple of weeks still left before the deadline.